yeah, there's certain low points. Obviously, attempted suicide when I was, 15. That's a definite low point. But I'd say, throughout the years of my 20s, the whole of that was a low point, just where I was at mentally.
Yeah.
I kind of pushed everyone away at that point, my whole family. So I had no contact with my family. I was hanging around with, all the wrong people. I was getting involved in a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been. That was, I'd say that was the lowest point in my life where I kind of pushed everyone away and I was very much on my own. And I was really fucking angry. I was really angry.
Because of where you was at, or?
I think I just had a lot of resentments. I know it sounds childish when I say it now, but looking back, when I was younger, when my parents broke up, I had a lot of resentments towards my parents as well.
Yeah.
I'm over that now, and I've got good relationships with both my parents, but I kind of carried that, for a lot of years, and I just felt angry. I felt lost. I went through all that sort of stuff.
Please just let me stop you there for a second. I just want to, first of all, say, thank you for following the podcast. It is such a massive response that we get off these podcasts, and they're getting better and better. So first of all, I want to say thank you. But secondly, I want to give you something for free. Okay, I've been speaking a lot about consistency at the moment with people, and people struggle to keep that consistency. They set a goal, they get frustrated, they don't understand sort of like the infrastructure of how it works. And then they start digging into that, start to make momentum, but then drop off and lose their consistency. And I see this so often with things. Maybe you're thinking this for yourself right now. So if you DM me on Instagram and ask me for the consistency link, I'll send it across to you. It's a fresh video that I've made last week where I take you through in depth how to really build a momentum of consistency for you in everything that you do. And you can really apply it to anything in the world. Anything that you attack with consistency, this matters, and it will fix anything that you're working on with that. So just quite simply go to Instagram and just drop me a message and just say, hey Dean, can you send me the consistency? Hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Chris, thank you for coming on the podcast, mate. It's been we've been speaking for a long while, haven't we? And I genuinely am really, really excited to have you on the podcast. So I appreciate your time. But Chris Pritchard, tell us just in a short sentence, like who you are and sort of like what you do.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I've never done a podcast before.
Yeah.
So this is a whole new experience of the microphone, the lighting and stuff. But we've known each other for a couple of years, and obviously we've had discussions about, things that I've overcome in life. In brief, like having like ADHD when I was younger, and then going off the rails, down the route of addiction and crime and prison. That sort of stuff, but I suppose that's what I'm here to
talk about. We'll delve into that, but to me have got an amazing story, and I think you're yet to know how amazing it is, but I want to tell everyone else, as we go through the story. But before we start the show, the thing we normally do is the gift for the show, so we remind you. So if you want to show us your gift first of all, hopefully it's something that hopefully it's something we can stick on the wall.
Sound. So this gift is a recent medal that I won at a jiu-jitsu competition. It's like a local low-level competition that I competed in. But as you know, I had a bad ACL injury, and then I started training here, doing all my recovery here. And then I managed to repair my leg, and I competed in a competition, and I won first place in that.
So, love it. Yeah. Are you really giving me that away if it's your first place?
It's only a local low-level comp. It's
no, but
it's not like the world finals or anything, but it does mean a lot to me. So,
you know what? I can already see what it means to you, but just tell me why it means so much to you.
I think just having a fresh start when I moved away from Birmingham, when I moved here, met a good bunch of lads training jiu-jitsu. I've done it for the last few years now, and overcoming an injury, and I suppose it just represents to me that putting in the hard work, you can overcome things and start getting results in whatever that is in a relatively short space of time.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I appreciate it. I'll just show the camera that. But no, and what you're saying there, I knew that was coming, because that is a perfect example, isn't it, of like that whole overcome and going and smashing a comp.
Yeah.
Well done for doing your comp as well, man.
Thanks,
But yeah, appreciate it, man. We'll stick it on the wall, and you'll see it on all the rest of the shows going forward. But okay, so tell me, sort of like growing up,
Mm.
young Christopher, or you just a Chris?
Yeah.
But yeah, what was it like growing up for you? Like, what was your upbringing and all that sort of stuff?
Well, early childhood, my childhood was pretty good. You know, from a young age. On paper, I had no reason to go off track. You know, I had good parents at the time. I had a mom and dad that were together. My dad had a good job. He had, you know, a decent amount of money.
Mm.
Lived in a nice area in Solihull. You know, went on holiday every year. You know, in a nice area, nice family. So my early childhood was pretty good.
Mm.
I got a little brother as well.
How old's your brother? Is he?
He's 6 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So I'm the eldest of two. Two boys. He turned out the complete opposite of me. But I suppose I started getting into trouble when I was in school, early secondary school.
Mm.
So I got a diagnosis of something called ADD, as it was known then. Now
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
called like inattentive ADHD. But I was always a kid with loads of energy.
So just sorry, you were diagnosed with that at school.
I had a child diagnosis. I've also got an adult diagnosis as well.
So
Yeah.
how old were you as a child to hear that? And
To hear
be-
that, how was it?
No,
Or
no,
how
sorry.
old?
How old were you? Yeah.
How
so-
old? I think I went to Birmingham Children's Hospital. I think I must have been about 12 or 13.
Mhm.
When-
Can you remember being told this at that age?
Not particular. Nah,
No.
I don't remember at all.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? Like, we try and keep things like that away from children, don't we? Because of what
Yeah.
they think it is,
Yeah.
or it can destroy adults' lives, let alone children's.
Mm.
So I'm trying to work out. But you didn't really know what that was all about, and
At the time, I had no idea. I've totally forgot that I had a child diagnosis. I only know that because I spoke to my mum since about it.
right, got you.
But obviously, it was displaying in my behaviours. I remember I was put in like naughty classes. Special classes for children with behavioural problems.
Yeah.
So like my school reports would always say that, you know, he can, when he puts his mind to it, you know, he's great in class. You know, when he's interested in the topic.
Yeah.
But that was the thing with me. I had a lot of energy, but it was always pointed in the wrong direction. When I was attending classes, it was like monotone,
Yeah.
boring subjects, you know, taught by some teachers that may or may not have been engaging. So I just wasn't interested. But it wasn't that I couldn't academically wrap my mind around things. I very much could, but in specific areas where I was interested.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously I've looked into what ADD is now, or inattentive ADHD, and it's a lack of dopamine.
Yeah.
So my whole life I've been, in regards to that anyway, seeking out dopamine.
Mhm.
And how that displayed when I was younger was just like messing around at school. But I went off the rails from a very young age, very early on. I mean,
What sorts of things do you remember doing as a child? Like, as in, like, what was going off the rails? What was, the whole search for dopamine? I mean, I've got
Yeah.
my own versions of what that is, but what was it for you?
Well, put it bluntly, when I was 12, I was taking drugs. I was in a sexual relationship when I was 12. I hadn't even gone through puberty at that point. I was watching pornos that I'd stolen from my dad, and I was smoking weed from the age of about 10.
Wow.
Yeah, smoking weed at 10, and then that progressed. I was taking like ecstasy and acid by the time I was 14.
Wow.
I was arrested, I think, 3 times before I'd left school, like criminal damage, and my mum used to have to come to the police station and act as an appropriate adult to get me out. So just all that extreme type of behaviour.
And do you feel that came from ADD ultimately, or?
Well, I don't know. I think it's maybe just my character. I don't know whether it's genetic, but definitely I struggle with then and have done my whole adult life with addiction issues.
Yeah.
So I can't pinpoint it on anything or anyone. You know, that's one thing I was concerned about coming on the podcast. I don't want to come across as a victim.
No.
And say, you know, this has happened to me, and just come across as a victim, because I'm not a victim. And I also don't want to come across that I'm blaming anyone. You know, I wouldn't blame any of my parents or my childhood. Obviously, I've had my experience with what I've experienced growing up and later on in life. But I certainly wouldn't blame it on anything. I think addiction's very complex.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
very complex
Yeah.
issue, with
Yeah.
many factors to it.
I mean, the reason I asked that is because I was trying to think of like the triggers that we get and that we go through that get us into this position.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm trying to say? And I think it's hard, isn't it? Because it's important to know what the triggers are and
yeah,
the things that get us to be addicted to things. But then at the same time, an addictive personality is an addictive personality.
yeah,
Like I have a really addictive personality. We spoke about things before,
yeah,
and it's like I know that if I do something extreme, it's going to go really extreme.
yeah,
Obviously it works in favour sometimes, but then there is also times that it doesn't work in your favour.
yeah.
But what? So as you were sort of like you taking drugs at the age, so you say like 14, like 10 up to 14, 15.
Yeah, I was smoking weed when I was about 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, stealing my parents' cigarettes and stuff like that from a very young age. Yeah, and then that progressed when I was 14 into harder drugs, and I'd say my life up until for the first 14 years was very different. When I was 14, things like changed at home. My parents got divorced,
Mm.
and my dad left the family home. Then we had to sell our family home then, and we moved to like a cheaper area. Obviously, then my mum's a single parent. She had her own struggles when my dad left, dealing with two kids as now a single parent. Where that left me as a kid at the time was just there was like a lack of boundaries almost. That
Yeah.
I could come and go as I pleased. I could pretty much do what I wanted. A lot more freedom with that. And once again, I'm not blaming anyone. That was just my circumstance.
Yeah.
But then I went off the rails. I'd say it all come to a head when I was about 15,
Mm.
and at which point I was one of the youngest in my year, so I was in year 11, the last year of secondary school when I was 15, and I'd stopped going to school a lot by that point anyway. And then I had something called drug-induced paranoid psychosis from the THC in cannabis, and I ended up attempting suicide.
So what is that exactly? That?
Drug-induced paranoid psychosis.
Yeah, it sounds a tongue twister.
Yeah. Well, that's what they said diagnosed me when I got to the mental
Yeah.
hospital.
So what actually is that? Break that down. Like, what does it mean?
Well, I was extremely paranoid.
Through
Yeah.
overuse of drugs.
Yeah, through overuse of drugs, specifically THC and cannabis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because that's what people say, isn't it? That yeah, it makes you paranoid.
yeah, it makes you paranoid. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against drugs. Quite the opposite. I think if it was up to me, I'd legalize all drugs. I know that sounds strange coming from an ex-drug addict, but I think the war on drugs isn't working. I think I'm not against people like they are in America now. In a lot of states, they're legalizing cannabis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've got nothing against people smoking cannabis, but at the time, I was smoking it when I was still a child,
Yeah.
so my brain was still developing
Yeah.
when I'm smoking cannabis, and it just got to the point where I was just extremely paranoid. I was having like paranoid delusions and stuff like that. And then I remember one specific day I hadn't gone to school. My grandparents had came round, and I just wasn't well, mentally. And I remember taking a dressing gown belt. I tied like a hangman noose in it, and then I tied the one half, like the banister of the stairs.
Yeah.
So I tied the one half round there. I put the other one round my neck, and then I stepped over the banister and I started climbing down the spindles. And at the time, I just didn't want to feel that way anymore, and I just thought, "Fuck this! I'm just gonna end it now." And then as I got lower and lower, and I was hanging by the spindles with my hands, I just remember that I was starting to pass out, and I was about to go. The last thought I can remember was I panicked and I tried to pull myself back up, and at which point, obviously, I just completely passed out. My granddad was in the next room, and all he heard was a thud. And I woke up with my granddad pulling my neck, and I was upside down on the stairs with my feet higher than my head, if you can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one half was still tied to the banister, and it had snapped clean in half while I was unconscious, luckily.
Right. So if that hadn't have happened, it could have been a different story, right?
Oh, it would have been a different story.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how old were you there?
I was, I think it was just before my 60th birthday. So 15, yeah.
And you've got one child, two children?
I've got one son.
One.
Yeah.
How old's he?
He's 10.
And what do you think when you think of what you was doing at the age of what he is now?
Yeah, I see that with kids around now, and I see like 10, 12, 14-year-old kids, and I think they're just kids. I think it's bizarre that, I was doing what I was doing at such a young age.
Mm.
It wasn't just me either. There was a small group of lads in my area that where drugs was available,
Yeah.
and there was a group of us all doing that.
Yeah. So it was a norm for you, and nothing. But yeah.
Yeah, at the time.
But it's crazy, isn't it, to think that your lad is 10, so he's not going to. But if he
Yeah.
was in your life, he would just be starting to bring drugs into his life.
Yeah.
How does that honestly make you feel to think that way
About what?
about him?
About Tyler?
Yeah.
Tyler, he's still a kid. He's very much a kid. He's an innocent kid.
Was you looking back? Was you not an innocent kid at that point?
I probably was someone looking at me, but I know
Yeah.
at the time when I was that age, I felt like I was an adult.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, I kind of felt like I was an adult. I could
Yeah.
do these things. I didn't feel like I was a child.
10-year-old.
Yeah, I didn't feel like a 10-year-old.
Crazy, though, isn't it? To think
Yeah.
like it's. I also get that feeling of what you're saying there, because I went round town at like 15, 16,
Yeah.
looking for fights. Like drinking out round town, and I used to genuinely think I was hard
Yeah.
and think I was a big adult.
Yeah.
When it's crazy, isn't it? When you think
Yeah.
back, it's like I wasn't. And if I seen that 16-year-old Dean now, I mean, I've seen photos of me 10 years ago, let alone 20.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'll be like, I'm a little fly. It's crazy, isn't it? When you think, but when you put yourself in that shoes, but then at the same time, yeah, it just makes me think. Tyler, you said your lad.
Yeah, Tyler.
It just makes you think, doesn't it? Like that is the age now where little Chris was then
Yeah.
starting a different life,
Yeah.
a different chapter.
Yeah.
So what happened after your granddad sort of, that incident there where, on the stairs?
Well, the police were called. That was the first time I got like medical intervention. At that point, I remember they came out, give me some pills. I don't know what they were, but they pretty much knocked me out. They took me in a car to, it was Smallheath, Chapman Road at the time. It was a residential mental health facility for adults. As a 15-year-old kid, it was full of adults with mental health problems. And my memory's very blurred of it, but I want to say they kept me there for about 3 or 4 months.
Really?
Yeah.
So full-time care, like care.
Oh, yeah. I was sectioned in there. Yeah, I couldn't leave.
Right, got you.
So I was like sectioned in there. I should have been at school. Should have been a 15-year-old kid. Yeah, there I was. I was sectioned in a mental hospital on heavy medication, and that's where
I guess that it was heavy medication to keep you there, right? To keep you at a low
It
state.
was antipsychotics. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
To bring me out of that psychosis. It was acute psychosis, probably for about 6 months, even after I'd stopped smoking weed. I stopped smoking weed then. I went on to have subsequent other addictions.
Yeah,
but
to help.
Since that day, I've never gone back to smoking weed.
Right. Is there a reason behind that part? What you said there, not going back to
Not
weed?
going back. Yeah, just the effect it had on me.
So-
Yeah. Never made me feel good. Just made me feel real paranoid.
Right.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I've tried weed before.
Yeah.
Because it was that whole like, I'm gonna try it, see what it's like,
Yeah.
and it makes me feel really, really like over the top high, and
Yeah.
but that's something that I've studied and understood, that a lot of ADHD people go high off things that you should go low, and go low off things that you should go high.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
And I never really understood that, but then that made me go crazy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But then the people I'm with would go sort of like chilled out and calm and like,
Yeah.
and it was actually quite weird. But are you just scared of that feeling then?
Specifically around weed, yeah, it's not a nice feeling I get off weed. It just makes me very paranoid. I don't want to socialise or go out or anything. Subsequently, my addiction after that was towards like stimulant-based medication, and stimulant medication, even like cocaine, which is a very strong drug, and like you say, normally makes people quite hyper, would actually make me feel quite calm.
Yeah.
It kind of has that opposite effect as well.
Well, I felt like similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when after you got sectioned,
Yeah.
how old were you when that ended, or you then come back to? Did you go back to your granddad's or parents or?
Well, yeah, I went back home after about 4 months in the mental health facility, and then I started to get well again. The parent, because I stopped smoking all the weed,
Yeah.
started to get a little bit better, and by which point I'd missed my GCSEs. I've never sat a GCSE in my life, and then I ended up getting a job. So the next, say, 4 years up until my early 20s were kind of good years in comparison to where I was at before. So I was working. I was working with my dad. We was like selling garden furniture. I got myself a van, and the next 4 years, let me just say this: the relationship that I've had with my dad is a very unconventional relationship
Yeah.
in the sense that my dad has also had his own vices, his own addiction issues. He's always had a good job.
Pull that in a bit.
He's always had a good job within sales.
Mm.
So he's always had quite a lot of money, but he's also had like a cocaine addiction as well.
Yeah.
And
Still to this day, or
up until very recently, like the last
Yeah.
year, I spoke to him before I came here. I said, if the conversation, if it comes up, can I talk about you or not? And he said, yeah. He said he doesn't mind. He's had addiction issues in the past, but he's doing a lot better now. So the next 4 years, anyway, were basically just spent working, like weekend party, drug use type thing, going out to nightclubs, going out to pubs, going to Amsterdam, going abroad, that type of lifestyle for a good chunk of years.
which sounds fun,
Yeah,
but it's also
yeah,
it's not the life that you want to be leading if you're trying to get somewhere, is it really?
yeah. In comparison, it was a lot better than where I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is with me, once again, I can't do anything in moderation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my mates or whoever would go out on a Friday night, maybe get a few grams. I wouldn't stop all weekend. I'd still be on it Monday. I'd struggle to go into work. I've had big periods of my life doing that when I was like, working, doing groundworks for cash in hand, and I'd get an envelope with my wages on a Friday, and I'd just spend my whole wage packet all weekend, and then I'd be wrecked on a Monday.
Yeah.
I can't do anything by extreme, in moderation.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And do you feel like you got more of a handle on that now?
Yeah, the last 3 years, I haven't touched any drugs now, for 3 years. And, yeah, I'm in a completely different place now, but same thing applies. I wouldn't ever go out and try and, socially or recreationally use drugs on a Friday night, because I'm not that sort of character.
No.
It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
And for the last 3 years, it's been nothing.
Yeah. Like genuinely being transparent, I'm the exact same person.
Yeah.
Like as in, I mean, I've not been to the extreme you've been, if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
but I am that person. If I'm going to do something, I'll do it till I die.
Yeah.
Not literally, but do you know what I'm saying? Like it's something where I can't just have a drink. I'll have to get absolutely smashed.
Yeah.
I can't just have, a casual party drug. I'll have to have everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's when the thing that I've worked out over the years is that make sure that you don't do it, because if you can't be that person to try and stay doing the same things that everyone does, or a lot of people can do, sorry, where they just have a little bit and stop.
Yeah.
If you can't be that person, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
I know it's a very simple thing to say, but actually it's harder than it sounds, isn't it? Because you have to take yourself away from so many different situations and stuff. What would you say is one of the worst periods of your
Life,
going through
addiction.
all of that addiction sort of period?
I'd say the worst chunk of years of my addiction. I mean, the consequences of my addiction have been horrendous on paper. So, over like on and off, say like 15 years worth of addiction, I've been arrested about 26 times. I've been to prison twice. I've been sectioned twice. I've been to rehab countless times, including abroad. I've attempted suicide. I've had a major burn and a skin graft surgery on my back.
Tell us about that.
Tell us about that.
Because you've obviously sent the photos in about this. And
yeah, the one that I sent the photo, that was wasn't that long ago. That was about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was in a really like a painful relationship. with my ex-partner. We've now broke up. She's in a good place. I'm in a much better place.
Is this Tyler's dad or
Tyler's mum?
dad?
No.
Tyler's mum?
No, it's not
No.
Tyler's mum.
Right.
No, it's a more recent partner than that.
Cool. Yeah.
But long story short, I was in a lot of pain. I'd left to go to a rehab. I checked myself into a rehab. After 24 hours, I checked out of that rehab. It was just too painful. I didn't want to do it. I left there, came back home to the same house with the same situation where I just left. And by which point it was about 1 a.m. And I'd already took a whole box of Valium at that point, diazepam.
To try and sleep or to get
No,
high?
just to get high, yeah.
Right.
Just to get high. As I'm coming home, I'm just eating because I got it off the doctor, a full pack.
Wow.
So
I might be asking a stupid question here. How can you get high off diazepam?
They're Valium. So you take one. It's like a brings you, it makes you feel quite chilled. Valium.
Yeah.
Valium.
Well, I've had diazepam before.
Yeah.
But that obviously makes you sleepy, right?
It makes you sleepy, but yeah, people
but
do.
You still get that. It's still like a surge of.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people are addicted to Valium.
Wow.
Yeah, diazepam, very, very addictive. Benzodiazepines.
Right.
So they're very addictive.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've literally had them at points to really rest before a competition and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a sensible way of using them.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. So I came back, and at that point, I just thought I'd failed at rehab. I was coming back to the same situation, and I had a bunch of what I called Xanax bars, which are benzodiazepines. Had a bag of those. Well, my ex-partner did when I came back. I found them. So I started taking these benzodiazepines through the night. The last thing I remember is I was just staggering around the bedroom. And then the next thing after that, I was woke up by the paramedics on the bathroom floor. I'd staggered into the bathroom with no shirt on, and passed out up against like a hot towel radiator. So I was leaning up against the hot towel radiator with no shirt on. And I had a major contact burn.
Yeah, which I will show the photo of this.
Yeah, the photo's disgusting.
If you're happy for me to, like,
yeah.
But it's insane to. Well, you shouldn't have made it. I think from what you said.
Well, when the paramedics found me, they said I was down to something like 3 breaths per minute. I had to put a breathing tube down my throat, and when the pump.
Yeah.
Air in. Coincidentally, I found out after the paramedic was actually my dad's friend, my dad's scuba diving friend.
Wow.
So yeah, I've got him on Facebook. I've thanked him many times for that.
Yeah, God, yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So,
but that is one hell of a story, isn't it? To know that you actually overcome that, and you're sitting here now again.
Yeah.
Because that was another situation, wasn't it, that could have gone a completely different way for you.
I'm very grateful to be alive. I've been in a lot of situations that I've been in a lot of dangerous situations as well over the years. Self-inflicted and otherwise as well. I'm grateful to still be sat here talking to you.
And I'm very grateful that you're sitting here to tell the story, and I mean that genuinely. I just want to stop you again for a split second. Now, you've probably heard me talk about LionMindX quite a lot. If you are somebody that often goes through life procrastinating and not really understanding what to do next, you have these big goals, big visions, but then you all of a sudden lose your energy and not know where to turn next. LionMindX is here to help you plan the shit out of your next 90 days. And that is as simple as it is. We work on your next 90 days, nothing else. And that's why it is so potent and powerful. We make sure that whatever you commit to in that 90 days happens, and we really drive everything forward. We count back from the 90 days. We work out your months, weeks, your days, and even down to the things you do in the day to make sure that you are doing what you said you were going to do, and you are electrifying everything that happens throughout that period, and you're crushing your goals. So if you want to learn more about LionMindX, jump on the freebie that's in the link below, and you will be able to learn a little bit understanding of exactly what we're about, and then you can take it to the next step if you want to. Speak to you soon. So obviously you found yourself. Would you say that was at the worst point of your life to that point?
Not necessarily.
Really?
I'd say that was one of them. I mean,
Really?
yeah, there's certain low points. Obviously, attempted suicide when I was, 15. That's a definite low point. But I'd say, throughout the years of my 20s, the whole of that was a low point, just where I was at mentally.
Yeah.
I kind of pushed everyone away at that point, my whole family. So I had no contact with my family. I was hanging around with, all the wrong people. I was getting involved in a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been.
Mm.
That was, I'd say that was the lowest point in my life where I kind of pushed everyone away and I was very much on my own.
Mm.
And I was really fucking angry. I was really angry.
Because of where you was at, or
I think I just had a lot of resentments. I know it sounds childish when I say it now, but looking back, when I was younger, when my parents broke up, I had a lot of resentments towards my parents as well.
yeah,
I'm over that now, and I've got good relationships with both my parents, but I kind of carried that, for a lot of years, and I just felt angry. I felt lost. I went through all that sort of stuff.
thing is, it's hard. It's I've been in similar situations myself, and it's hard to. You said this at the start of the podcast. You don't want to be the victim.
Yeah,
That's because you built up some resilience to understand that life isn't going to get you anywhere if you're a victim.
yeah,
And that's a very mature thing to say. But it's actually hard to not feel the victim when you're walking through life, isn't it?
yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? We can put that down to the most simple thing, like walking down the street, something happens to you, automatically people can go, why does that have to happen to me?
Yeah,
That's a victim mentality, isn't it? But then you can also have, we joke about things saying, things aren't going your way and or today's not gone for me, right for me and this, that, and the other. But ultimately, if you continue that thought process, you can really become a victim, can't you?
yeah,
No, I find it's quite a hard thing. I feel as a child when you're going through life, because let's be honest, there's no right and wrong way to go through life. There's no, as much as your parents guide you, they're only guiding you what they know is right.
yeah,
That doesn't mean it's right for the life that you're in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
yeah,
And I think I went through a stage of blaming my parents for how I was brought up, but it actually isn't about that. It's about just generally the life that you lead as you go through it, and we have to learn from our mistakes, don't we?
yeah,
I think it's one of those things where like now you've got a lad yourself as well, like, but I've got children, so that I love to use them as my reflection of like, do you know what I mean? Like guiding them, but not doing it for them.
yeah,
I think that's really important, isn't it? And as a parent, it's actually really hard,
yeah,
let alone being the child that actually knows nothing.
yeah.
So what would you look at now, like from, well, in fact, let's look at the years that you sort of like focused on becoming a better you.
Yeah.
What sort of things did you put in place there?
Well, a big change point in my life when I was 26. So that was coming up to the end of a chunk of years when I was living on my own in a flat. I very much pushed everyone away. There was a trigger point. I'll talk a little bit about this. What happened? I was on probation. I was getting involved in a lot of some sort of legal activity. I was selling drugs at the time. There was a couple of us from the flat who were selling Class A drugs. And long story short, one night we just reloaded at the flat and all we heard at the front door was boom, boom, and we thought it was the police. The front door got kicked off. I looked at my friend. We had a big bag of drugs there. I said, jump off the balcony out the back. So he ran into the kitchen to jump off the balcony. It was only 10 feet. You could jump off it quite easily. I then went to the front door to head off the police just to buy a few seconds to stall them so he could get away. And as I've gone round to the front door, it wasn't the police. It was two guys wearing balaclavas. One of them had a machete. The other one had a meat cleaver. I've jumped back on the sofa and they said, where is he? And I said, he's in the kitchen, thinking he'd jumped off the balcony at that point. So when they ran into there, I ran out the front door. I randomly then just burst into one of my neighbours' houses, just opened the front door, went in there, and I was looking out the window, and then all I could hear was screams, like gargling screams coming from my flat. And he couldn't get off out the back door for whatever reason. He couldn't find the key, so they caught him in the kitchen. and they had chopped him around his neck. They chopped him in his head. Long story short, there was like an attempted murder charge there.
Wow. He survived, right?
He survived. He was fine. I say he was a friend. He was a drug associate that I was selling drugs for. It was a nice guy, but we was both just selling drugs essentially. I've never seen him since. But yeah, he was fine. And I remember there was like an investigation for attempted murder there, but it just ended up a really bad situation. And then that got reported to my probation officer, and she tried to help me out. You know, I am grateful for that. She says, "Chris, if you want, we can send you to a rehab in Western-super-Mare. It would involve like leaving your flat, leaving this area, giving everything up." And it was a 6 months treatment program in Western-super-Mare.
Wow.
So
Is that not normal for them to do that, or is
well,
that...
they get limited amount of funding from the government. You know, they're very.
She's seen something in you that would.
Yeah. So they may be able to afford to send like 2 people a year or whatever on the budget because they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So I took that opportunity. I left, and that was my first experience of going to a rehab. You know, the first I'd heard about, you know, what addiction was. The first time I ever spoke to a counsellor. The first time I ever had therapy. You know, and group therapy.
How old were you there?
I was 26.
Yeah. So at that point, was it more about you learning the psychological side of it? Do you know what I mean? Because surely you was learning actually what it meant and everything in that place.
I think I just needed physical separation from that lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, I needed a clear head where it was a safe environment. There was no drug use there. I was surrounded by good people. You know, a bunch of other people that are in the same boat as me, but then also like, you know, professional counsellors.
Yeah.
You know, I started doing all like self-help work. And then for a bunch of years then I was in what's called like 12-step recovery. You know, have you heard of 12-step recovery?
No.
So it's like I was going to like Narcotics Anonymous meetings. You must see it on TV, you know, introduce yourself. Hi, my name's Chris and I'm an addict. Or AA, you've heard of AA?
Yeah.
Alcoholics Anonymous, same sort of thing. So like group therapy sessions.
Yeah.
So
and is that what it's called then?
It's called Narcotics Anonymous, yeah.
Right, okay, I wouldn't have known. Right,
Yeah,
got you. Yeah.
And there's also one called Cocaine Anonymous that I've done that for a couple of years as well. But I'd say that's when I started unraveling a lot of things that I had to deal with.
Basically like group therapy.
It's exactly what it is. It's group therapy. Yeah. They're everywhere. They're all across the country. They're totally free. You can Google that now. If anyone's got addiction issues, you can say, you know, Cocaine Anonymous meeting near me. There'll probably be one within a 2-mile radius of here. And they're on certain nights of the week. There's no money involved. There's no one professional. There's just a group of like 20 people would turn up anonymously. And
would you say that's quite a powerful move?
Oh, yeah. I think they're brilliant. I don't do them anymore. I haven't done them for years, but I definitely would recommend, especially if people can't afford to go to rehab or they can't afford professional therapy, or even if you can, I'd say definitely look into that, to do that alongside whatever you're doing. But I'd never heard of that before. I'd never heard of.
The thing is, I know what it is, and I do know what you're saying now. You say AA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to hear that actually they are worth doing, because to hear, you know, I don't know if anyone's listening to this that needs to know. Do you know what I'm saying? But but if there is, and that's good, that, you know, that's a good step to take. It's good for people to know.
Yeah.
It's powerful. So when you went through, you know, obviously all this sort of like rebuilding yourself, if you want to call it that, what were the things that you put in place to, you know, obviously like you say, you separate yourself from people. That was probably the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
But what else did you put in place to keep you on the right track?
I think that was the main thing, taking myself out of that environment, stopped associating with people with a similar sort of mindset as me. You know, started, employment was massive at that point, you know, developing self-worth, self-esteem. At that point, I'd never educated myself, so I didn't even sit a GCSE. And then I started doing like little educational programs, started getting certificates. I'd done like a personal trainer course. You know, I got a bunch of certificates that I started doing. All things just to like develop my character, you know, and then started building a life that was worthwhile living, as opposed to one where it was just, I'd say the life that I was living before was just all about instant gratification.
Yeah.
I just wanted a quick fix. I wanted to feel good there and then.
Yeah.
None of it was like long-term goals. You know, I didn't understand any of that sort of thing back then.
Mm.
You know, I say I was 26. I was a young 26. You know,
Yeah,
I
but
looked young and I acted young.
and I guess
I
you've
was still
been
a kid.
through a very advanced life at a young age, but
Yeah.
you hadn't developed as such. Is that
Developed
the right way of looking at
emotionally.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where the power comes, isn't it? Because obviously there's so many people that struggle with that whole quick fix
Yeah.
sort of side of things. There's a lot of people that struggle with that, and you know, I mean, look at social media nowadays. People are looking how many likes they've got. They're putting pictures up that are going to get likes. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's all about that, like that that is that dopamine rush. But then also it's hard because the world we live in has so much of that sort of like mentality of people just want to feel good, want to, you know, to hear good things about them, and
Yeah.
you know that gets addictive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so after all this sort of like stage, then what? So how old were you when you, let's say, you were coming out of, you know, coming out of all that like therapy side of things and everything like that? How old were you then?
I was 26 when I got introduced to all that, and then I was kind of fleeting in and out of that. Then for a few years, I kind of still at times then wanted to have, you know, one foot in each camp. So I kind of wanted to be leading a good life, but then I still wanted to occasionally go out on a weekend and start dabbling. I still wanted to do all that. So there was a part of me that didn't want to fully let go of that lifestyle. And then over the years, I've kind of realised that it's all or nothing. I can't do anything in moderation like that.
Yeah, and that is a game changer of a moment, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm saying this through experience as well as what I see. But if you try and just put your foot in, and you can't do that, you just bang your head against the wall, aren't you?
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple to say it, and it's so obvious to say it.
Yeah.
But actually, it's really quite hard.
Yeah.
I used to find myself, you know, weekends going out with people, and I'm sure you went through this, but I used to go through those periods where, you know, you get people are shooting you down for being unsocial, and you know, they're like, oh, you never come out anymore, you don't do this, you don't do that, and actually it's all because I was battling and struggling, not doing that.
Yeah.
And did you feel like that?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, when I did start, you know, changing my life, I had some real good times, and I went down the rehab route, and I ended up working in a rehab for a few years. You know, going from someone, you know, who was once, you know, a client or a resident in a rehab.
Yeah.
I've worked.
How did that feel? Because that is a pretty amazing.
It was really good. Yeah, it was really good. More than that, I ended up working in the prison where I was once an inmate, HMP Birmingham, Winson Green.
Yeah.
So I remember I was working in there as part of like the resettlement team initially, and then like an addiction specialist as a housing officer, helping prison leavers and people with substance misuse problems. And I'd go in there, and it was bizarre thinking that it was probably, I don't know, a few years that I was an inmate there.
Yeah. So you'd help them go back onto the streets and not be addicted. Like, that's the aim, yeah?
Yeah, so it was addiction issues, but also just prison leavers, so like criminality, maybe like mental health issues or whatever. It's basically people that are coming from prison. We would rehouse them into supported accommodation, help them, you know, build up the CVs, help them get back into employment, you know, signpost them to, you know, local services, whatever that is, help them, you know, complete their probation, or if they're on license from leaving prison. I don't know how I got the job.
Well,
I kind of blagged my way into the job.
but at the same time, surely you're the best person for it because you've been there.
Yeah, I was good at what I'd done. It turned out I was really good at what I'd done. When I went for the job, I kind of exaggerated my CV a little bit.
Yeah.
I
sold yourself.
Yeah, I sold myself. But when they interviewed me, they gave me the job.
Yeah.
And turned out that I was really good at the job. And then I worked in, you know, several rehabs after that. I was the assistant manager of a detox unit over in Birmingham. So I really enjoyed that work, and it's really good work to do. But health and social care work is like long hours, unsociable hours, and it's very low paid as well. Health and social care, across the board. As you know, recently I worked for a care company for 2 years,
Yeah.
helping adults with autism.
Yeah.
That was once again really rewarding work, way better the job in terms of job satisfaction that I do now. I really miss that work. I felt like I was helping people. I learned all about autism, making a difference in people's lives. I
Yeah,
had
of
a
course.
passion for it. I loved it. But once again, it was like really low paid work. So I take my hat off to people that work in health and social care, for
Yeah.
long term, because they do a really difficult job. I
Yeah.
don't think people realize how difficult, that job is, working in health and social care.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
A lot of it's shift work, nights, every other weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
I think a lot, like you say though, a lot of people will work off the passion as opposed to the pay, won't they? With that,
yeah,
and as much as
yeah,
I understand and appreciate anyone doing that.
yeah.
We need to get paid,
Mm.
and unfortunately, with everything going up at the moment,
Well, that's what I mean.
you have to weigh things up,
Yeah,
right?
you just need enough money to live. Like, I
Yeah,
couldn't afford to rent a house and run a car and basic income on that sort of money.
yeah, yeah. So, are you doing anything with that type of stuff now, or you just working on your job at the moment?
Yeah, I've completely left the care company now. So
Yeah.
I don't work in health and social care. Obviously, I haven't worked in a rehab for years. I haven't worked in a prison for years. I've got a totally different job now. I'm manufacturing like materials for aircraft engines. Sounds more fancy than it is. I'm just basically a robot all day. I get
Yeah.
no job satisfaction.
Who's that for?
It's for a company, a local company.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I understand there's quite a lot of companies that do that sort of stuff, though, isn't
yeah,
there? I know at the top end of it, there's some big money in there, isn't
yeah.
there? Like
It's better money than I was on.
yeah,
It's a lot better money than I was on.
yeah.
But it's one of them jobs where I'm just doing for money.
Do you feel that you want to fill that void,
Yeah,
that passion somehow as
yeah,
well,
I
though?
do. Yeah,
What could you do? Because it sounds like you have a lot of quality in that area. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
there must be something you can do to still feed that passion of
yeah, yeah.
yours.
So it's all been a stepping stone. I'll tell you what happened 3 years ago when I left Birmingham.
Mm,
So 3 years ago, I'd been doing quite well. I ended up after the rehab, I was doing building work for a good chunk of years.
mm,
Things were going good, and then COVID happened. COVID, I know it's a big thing for a lot of people. It was the
mm.
same for me. It wasn't good for me. The company that I was working for stopped trading, so I couldn't go to work. I was stuck in this flat in a painful relationship, and we wasn't good for each other.
Mm,
Um, and then I ended up going off the rails. Spent all my savings on drugs, and I went off the rails big time.
mm.
3 years ago, I ended up having a seizure. I'd been awake for about 3 days on a session at home. I ended up having a seizure, and I was arrested at the time. I had like possession of drugs on me. Long story short, I thought I got to stop this. It's time to get out of Birmingham,
Yeah.
start fresh. I left my flat. I left that relationship, and then I came to come and live in Loughborough. I went to
Why Loughborough of
there's a
interest?
local rehab here.
Got you.
So I checked into a rehab. I stayed there for 6 months, done that whole program. I started working for them for a little bit, and then I started working for the care company.
Mm,
So everything since then has just been a stepping stone, including the job that I've done now. So I've just moved to Leicester. I've got a nice apartment there.
mm.
I've got a lot of material stuff in my life, which is good as well.
Yeah.
Got my own apartment.
Yeah.
Communal swimming pool, communal gym. I've got a nice car. I've got money in my pocket. I've just booked a holiday. Which is all nice stuff. But more to the point, I've started to develop, rebuild relationships with my family.
Mm,
I'm starting to get, starting to feel more comfortable in my own skin.
mm,
Again, I'm got access to see my son Tyler.
mm.
When I went off the rails 3 years ago, my son's mum stopped me seeing Tyler, so I had to go through court, go through family
Yeah.
court, represented myself in family court, and for a chunk of time, I've been having supervised access at my mum's,
Yeah.
and I'm about to have him at my flat overnight for the first time in 2 weeks' time.
Wow.
And so I've just got him a
Yeah.
bed there. We've got a swimming
How
pool.
how does that feel? 'Cause I know that makes me light up just
Yeah,
feeling that for
yeah,
you.
yeah. It's brilliant. I've got a great relationship with him. I always
Yeah.
have. I love him to bits. He's a really good kid. Loves his Xbox. You know, like I say, he's 10 years old. Since he was little, I've always took him swimming. So it's good the fact that I've got a swimming pool where I'm staying.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But you know, this weekend
Has he been to yours yet then?
he's
or
been there.
just
Yeah,
not stayed over?
he's just not stayed overnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had him this weekend at my mum's, and I took him to swimming in the day, and then I took him to cinema on the night. So yeah, I love him to bits, man.
Yeah. These are those things, aren't they, in life when, you know, it makes me feel quite so proud of you and also tight chested in that feeling of like, I know what you've been through. Not for you know, me doing it, me doing your life, but I can just feel that whole, you know, everything you've been through and where you are now.
Yeah.
It's an amazing journey that you've come to. That's what I'll say. You've not had an amazing journey. Maybe you might look at it as you have, but you know where you are right now. You've done amazing, man.
Yeah.
And I really do love to hear, and that's why I said to you for quite some time, didn't I? I wanted to get you on the podcast.
Yeah.
But with what would you say are your big learns in life? And this could be quite broad, but what are your big learns that you could probably pass on to other people? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of people that go through or try or attempt to go through what you've been through to straighten yourself out, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
That just don't make it.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you have, and like I say, you're an inspiration, man. Like I mean it.
Yeah.
But what are your big learns? Because why are the other guys and girls not quite doing it, and what have you done different, if that is a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's multiple things. Like I say, if you're talking about addiction, it's very complex. I'd definitely say seek some sort of therapy. But in terms of what I've been doing the last few years, it's real basic stuff, the way I've been living my life. So I've been keeping myself around good people, having, you know, forming healthy relationships with people, even simple things like getting the correct amount of sleep. My diet is on point. I'm training. You know, I do a lot of weight training. I do jiu-jitsu. I live a very clean lifestyle. I don't go to clubs or anything like that anymore. Even simple things like audiobooks, podcasts. I read. You know, I've been very much into like stoicism, learning like philosophy, psychology. You know, just like developing, you know, my character, learning new things, living a healthy lifestyle, but also having goals as well. You know, short-term goals, long-term goals. Like I said, everything that I'm achieving is a stepping stone. So I've just got into my apartment in Leicester. By the end of the year, I plan to have a house. I definitely am not going to stay in my job long-term. You know, I don't want to be a robot, especially with ADD. I get bored easy. I get bored at the best of times.
But it's powerful that you're seeing it for what it is. You're saying it's a stepping stone, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. A lot of people won't do that stepping stone because they think, no, it's not the end goal.
Yeah.
But actually, it's step 1 of 10, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to do something in fitness, you know, work in fitness. I'd love to, you know, own a gym, you know, a small little gym or something like that. I've been into fitness my whole life. That's been my one passion.
Yeah.
In one form or another, you know, fitness. It's the only qualification I've got to my name is a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Plus, again, you've done that thing where you've got yourself in great shape to be able to say, this is what I've done.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that I think you working on yourself obviously is so wide, and you know there's different ways of looking at it, isn't there? But working on yourself physically is one of those things that will always make you feel good, and people always want to know the answers to.
Yeah.
So if you can help people with that, obviously it's a powerful thing, isn't it? No, I love it. But mate, I really appreciate you talking today.
No worries, mate. Appreciate it.
You know, and I know that it'll be a powerful podcast for so many people.
Yeah.
What's one thing you can leave people with that will help them develop themselves further?
One statement.
One. Let's just look at it as a tip that you could give people that want to better themselves. Put it on the spot now.
Put me on the spot. I say no matter where you get in life, no matter how off the track you get or how much trouble you get, I'd say never give up, because there is always a way back. And always try and remember, in hindsight, you always feel like whatever's happened has happened for a reason. I'd say never give up.
Although often when things are happening, you can't see a good reason behind it.
No, not at all.
And it's so hard sometimes, isn't it? But actually, if you search for, there's got to be a learning lesson from that.
Yeah, you can learn from everything in life.
Yeah, love it. My man.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much,
Thank
mate. Really appreciate it. If people want to follow you, where can they follow you? Where can they hook
Well,
up
I'm
with
not
you?
really big on social media, so pretty
Yeah.
much nowhere.
Unless you follow down the street.
Yeah, or I'm on Facebook. But yeah, that's about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, I do see you put your pics up every so often on Facebook.
Yeah.
But appreciate it,
All
man.
right, mate.
Thank you
Cheers.
very much.
Thank you.